Do you find the thought of process performance measurement tedious, difficult, distracting, time-consuming? Does the idea of process KPIs fill you with dread? The good news, the great news, is that it doesn't have to be like that. It need not be hard. It can be empowering. If it's mindful and targeted, it can be a joy. Really, it can. Done properly, process measurement opens a treasure trove of information that enables evidence-based decisions that lead to performance optimization where it really counts. What if you were also able to predict process performance, not just report it? In this Process Insight, I want to address some key issues about process performance management. I want to take a different view beyond the spreadsheets. Why do we do it? Is it worth the effort? Spoiler alert, done properly, it's very much worth the effort. And we're going to do that by looking at 4 profound questions about process performance. Let's start with these 3 questions. What do we want? What's happened so far? And what could be possible? So, what do we want? We need to know what we want out of the process. What is performance meant to be? What does good look like? And when I say we, I mean the key stakeholders. Not just the folk in the BPM team sitting aside and making it up. We need to find out who our stakeholders are and ask them, what is good for them about process performance? What would bad be? So we need to understand with some depth what good would look like. What do we want? That lets us set our process KPIs and targets. And then, of course, we must have a deep understanding of what's happened so far. What is the current level of performance? And what's the gap, therefore, between the current level and what the stakeholders want it to be? So now we've got what do we want and what's happened so far. And we need to know that, both of those things, with some detail. Not just vaguely, but in some detail and continuously. And then there's a third aspect here, which sometimes we miss out on, we forget. We say, what could this process do? What could be possible? If we took the handbrakes off, if we took the constraints away, what could this process achieve? Put aside for a moment the KPIs, and maybe we're achieving all of those KPIs. But is there a business case for doing something more, something beyond the expectations of the stakeholders? So we end up with this mix and match of what should be, what is, and what could be. What should be, that's the targets we've set, the KPIs and targets. What is, that's the current level of performance. And what could be. What is the capability? What's the capacity of this process if we took away the constraints? Is there some new idea, some innovation we could apply that would greatly impact the performance of the process? So we're always looking then for how these overlap. We're looking for the sweet spot there of is and should and could be. And these things are changing, of course. They're not fixed. What is, we're measuring this on a regular basis, the cadence of the process. If the process produces data, then we should be able to make that assessment. So what is happening, and that will change, presumably, over time. Maybe what the stakeholders want out of it changes over time, and what's possible is obviously going to change as we come up with new ideas for process performance improvement. And as we improve a process, of course, the whole context is going to change. The very things we might want to measure will change. So we're all the time trying to find the sweet spot here between is and could and should. And that's a moving target. So we're going to be doing this continuously. Process performance is not something we're going to do once a year or once a quarter. We're going to do it continuously because that's required if we're going to do anything like continuous management and continuous improvement. Now, there's a fourth question, and perhaps this is the most important one from a management point of view, because it's saying, okay, we know what happened last week or last month, we can do that, and that's rear view mirror stuff, isn't it? That's okay, we need to do that, but it's not the sorts of things that would really give us great insight as much as if we could say, what's going to happen next week and next month? So we know enough about the process. Our knowledge is profound enough that based on our knowledge of what has happened and the context of the process, we can make a reasonable prediction with some certainty about what's going to happen next week and next month. We can make that prediction based on there being no change, or we might say, okay, we've made some changes. Now let's predict what's going to happen as a result of those changes. If you can do that, if you know your process well enough, and you've made some changes, some adjustments based on requirements and finding that sweet spot. And now you're going to say, okay, we've made the changes and we predict performance is going to be X, Y, or Z. If you can do that accurately, then you're really managing processes. And your level of knowledge about the process is allowing you to make profoundly important decisions and serious improvements about process performance. So all the time, we still have all of this moving targets of is, should and could be, but now we apply the next filter as well, and we want to get the crosshairs on the sweet spot and keep them there. And everything's moving, but all the time we're just trying to understand and forecast and make adjustments for this moving target to keep the crosshairs on there. And now we've got deep knowledge about a process. Now we're really managing and measuring processes. Now we can really improve them. So let's sum up the key ideas that we've had here. So it's about active, isn't it? Performance management is not just about getting a bunch of data occasionally and whacking it in a spreadsheet and updating some chart to put in a report. And, that's okay, necessary, but nowhere near sufficient. That's just the basic mechanics. The whole point of measurement is to enable us to make good decisions about which processes need to be improved and why, and what's the business case, what's the impact of change or not making a change. So active performance management is all of those things. And the context is not static. Everything's going to be moving. This is a moving target. The is, the could, the should be will be moving, and we'll want to be trying to forecast performance based on that as well. So we've got what should be, what is, what could be, what's going to come next. At the point at which we can manage all of that and manage it well, then I think we've got a much, much more profound understanding of the process, and we're doing much better management, which will lead to vastly improved levels of improvement because our understanding is so deep. And the real test of that perhaps is, okay, everybody can report what happened on a process last week. We might come to say, oh, big deal. What we can do, because we're really on top of this, what we can do is not only tell you what happened last week and last month, but we'll back ourselves to be able to tell you what's going to happen next week and next month. Now we're managing. Thanks for joining me for this Process Insight. I hope you found it useful. If you did, I think you'll find the same for others in the series. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss any. In this Process Insights series, we discuss the theory and practice of process-based management and how it enables significant improvement in organisational performance. It's like having a perpetual improvement engine. You'll find more information about me and the work I do with clients around the world at my website. You have my contact details. I'd be delighted to connect with you. Thanks for sharing this time with me. If you'd like to continue the discussion, I'd love to hear from you.